Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Breer, good logic behind Justin Fields returning to Pittsburgh, was a Steeler before he became one. It feels like every day we inch closer to free agency, the more rumors begin to swirl, especially regarding the Pittsburgh Steelers and their need for a quarterback. The Steelers have been connected via rumor to seemingly every possible option. NFL insider Albert Breer thinks Justin Fields makes the most sense going forward, though. I personally think there's a good chance Justin Fields winds up back in Pittsburgh, Breer said, via the MMQB NFL podcast. He's got good relationships. I think there's a lot of good logic to the idea of Fields going back to Pittsburgh in some capacity. Breer mentions in some capacity. However, Fields reportedly prefers a clear path to a starting job. It makes sense. Although Fields' value isn't incredibly high, it is compared to when the Steelers traded only a sixth-round conditional draft pick for him last offseason. This will be Fields' best chance to find that starting role on the market. While the Steelers might want to keep him, if they don't view him as a starter and another team does, Fields could be gone. However, as Breer mentions, Fields has some good relationships in the building already. We also know that he's open to returning to Pittsburgh, and Arthur Smith is said to be affectionate of the young quarterback. If the Steelers want to get younger at the position, there isn't a better option than Fields. Aside from a simple roster fit, Breer believes Fields' mentality aligns with the organization as well. He's got his faults as a player, he is a Steeler though, Breer said. He was a Steeler before he became one. Just in his mentality, the way he carries himself, who he is. And I know they'd like to keep working with him. Fields won 4 of the 6 games he started in 2024. He was able to get the job done on the field but earned extra recognition off it as well. When Fields was benched after Russell Wilson recovered from his calf injury, many disagreed with the decision. Fields handled it professionally, in mature fashion. That earned him a lot of praise, and many look at his maturity as one of the biggest things to stand out from his 6-game stint as the starter. Who knows whether that's enough for the Steelers to view him as their starter going forward. They don't have many better options, though. They also aren't the only team in need of a quarterback. Fields should have some suitors, so if the Steelers want to retain him, they'll have competition. Ray Fittipaldo believes Steelers' 2025 offensive personnel already pretty much in place. By the end of the 2024 season, the Pittsburgh Steelers' offense looked anything like a finished product. In terms of personnel construction for next season, though, Ray Fittipaldo argues that they are nearly there already. Outside of the quarterback conundrum and adding a wide receiver, he says, this is basically the Steelers' offense next season. They've already done the majority of their moves on offense, Fittipaldo said discussing the Steelers on the North Shore Drive podcast recently. Other than figuring out who's gonna play quarterback, and figuring out what you're gonna do with George Pickens and the rest of that receiver's room, everything else is pretty much in place. The offensive line, for example, is already in place, at least in theory. They have drafted 4 linemen over the past 2 years, and all project to be starters in 2025. Add an Isaac Seumalo, and there you have it. Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington are still the tight ends, and they might even run it back in the backfield. Pickens is likely to stay at this point, and Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin III return. So what's left, really, but plunking down a quarterback and another wide receiver? It's time for Broderick Jones to step up and to play better. It's time for Zach Frazier and Troy Fautanu and Pat Freiermuth and all those guys to take more on their shoulders and to become a bigger part of this football team, Fittipaldo said, making it clear where the Steelers' offense must improve is through individual and collective growth. When I look at this roster construction, the offense, I think it's like 80% done. A little tinkering here and there. The majority of that work is done. Now you have to count on those guys to make incremental improvements each and every year. Now, I'm sure that probably isn't a very comforting thought for a lot of Steelers fans, who hoped for change. Most likely, either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields is also going to be the quarterback. Barring the additions of Troy Fautanu and Roman Wilson, this could be the exact same offense that ended last season other than the addition of one outside receiver. Or the Steelers could do a lot more than we might realize. Most already expect that they will add at least one outside running back, if not two, so that's one possibility. They could also add multiple outside receivers, one veteran and one rookie. And if they were to, say, trade for Matthew Stafford, that would be very different. They could even draft another guard along the offensive line, even if Mason McCormick is a fan favorite. Given how the offseason has gone so far, though, the Steelers have conditioned their fans not to expect much. Unless Fautanu and Wilson make big differences and the young players take significant steps forward, this is the same offense. But there were times that offense actually looked good last year. How do they keep it that way? With all eyes on Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, the Steelers are suddenly flirting with Matthew Stafford. Of course, without a ring on the finger, the eyes can stray, and one can't blame the Steelers for that. The ring is the thing, after all, and they are long divorced from their last one. But are the Steelers really interested in Matthew Stafford? A report yesterday indicated that they have explored the idea, after the Rams gave Stafford permission to talk to teams. But exactly what does this interest amount to? Is this the equivalent of calling up Darrelle Revis' agent and asking if he would take $5 million? Pittsburgh Steelers interested in trading for Matthew Stafford. The Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the teams interested in trading for Los Angeles Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford, according to Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer. In addition to the Steelers, the New York Giants, Cleveland Browns, and Las Vegas Raiders are other teams that have inquired about his availability. The teams you'd suspect would have their hat in the ring have, indeed, thrown their hats in the ring. The New York Giants, Cleveland Browns, Pittsburgh Steelers, Las Vegas Raiders and others have shown interest, Breer wrote. Jordan Schultz of Fox Sports reported last week that Stafford is a first-round pick, and the quarterback wants a $50 million contract in the new spot he plays in next year if he is traded. That is about right for what Aaron Rodgers went for at the time of his exit from Green Bay, and if the Steelers want to maximize their Super Bowl window, this is a move that could be their big swing for the moon, but Stafford will need a reworked contract and started to show signs of decline. On top of that, Stafford has often been injured, and with the Steelers' young but still growing offensive line, those concerns would not be quelled in Pittsburgh. And you fan? What do you think of Matthew Stafford's situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.